This game has been alive for almost 8 years now, and I have never in all my life seen a game as full of pointless glitches that you're going to want to see. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely glitchier games out there like Big Rigs Over the Road Racing and Ocarina of Time, but the trophy for the world's most pointless glitches in a game has to go to Odyssey, especially with the amount of easy softlocks that there are to trigger. Today you're going to see things like this, this, and even this. No, it's not the view that I'm talking about, it's a dot-sized chain chomp that flew all the way over here by a glitch that we're gonna cause. There's honestly so much insane stuff to cover in this game, so hold on tight while we go all the way to the very end of it to start this episode off with something pretty incredible, just to show you what sort of fun you're in for with this one. When you eventually complete the game with 500 power moons collected, which I have just done for the very first time, especially for this video, you'll gain access to the final hidden area known as Darker Side. In the first section of the level, you'll enter the Culmina crater and have to defeat U4, a purple spike-ridden Goomba-dropping hat. Once you've beaten this mini-boss, a life-up heart will appear on the centre platform, but you need to completely ignore it and instead collect a couple of Goombas, bring them over to the centre, then uncapture them. With everything set up, lure them towards the heart and then capture them again to totally freeze the game. And this isn't like a normal softlock either. It looks like you're trapped here, but you can actually uncapture the Goombas again and roam around the level with some more than odd side effects. Throwing Cappy causes him to leave you forever. Enemies have no hitbox or collision, so you can pretend that Mario's face is theirs. Coins are frozen and can't be interacted with. Obstacles can't hurt you whatsoever. And even the lava won't cause Mario any damage, no matter how long he relaxes on it. The biggest thing of all is that the death plane gets deactivated, meaning that you can fall all the way out of the level boundary and into space forever, and ever, and ever. It's weird, because I always thought space was up above the planets and moons, not in the core. Anyway, if you want to get out of this, you'll need to reset the console, because not even the pause button will work in this situation. And there's another equally awesome glitch to see on Darker Side of the Moon too, but that one's getting saved for later. For now, let's head over to the Seaside Kingdom, where you'll find 2 simple ways to clip out of bounds which are way more interesting than this one. The first method uses Cheeps, and no, they're not birds, they're these fish-like enemies that are a much faster way of moving in the water. As well as giving a boost to your swim speed, they can even provide a nice clip if you swim up at the very edge of this tunnel and then release the enemy. When Mario pops out, the Cheep is high enough to force him through the ceiling of this tunnel and out of bounds. If you combine this with assist mode to stop yourself from drowning, you can even get down under the kingdom's geometry and swim below the intended area just by dropping through the ground anywhere that the walls meet the floor. This will let you see some really glitchy bottom side graphics. I even managed to discover and collect this moon for the first time, which has the absolute perfect name for the way that we collected it, don't you think? Before we take part in any more out-of-bounds shenanigans, I've got to show you the other way to get out of bounds, and I really think that you're going to prefer this one. Head on over to the northeast corner of the map and capture this Gushen on the raised ledge. Walk off the ledge and use a ground pound on it. Then just keep jumping on the point where it's supposed to respawn, and with a little luck it should spawn halfway in the ground. Capturing it whilst it's in this position will remove all collision, so you can just power through any of the scenery that you like, and it's much quicker than swimming as Mario. Even though there's not really anything to do whilst you're out of bounds here, my ADHD did take over and I ended up messing around out here for ages and finding some cool things like the 2D section of the level, which looks pretty cool from down here. You can't collect the moon though, I tried. If you swim all the way around the back of the kingdom, you'll be able to see hidden areas through the one-way collision, making it easy to see secret places that you might not have visited during your playthrough, like this door that I missed. You can also see this view of the Odyssey through the out-of-bounds walls, which was just beautiful looking, so I wanted to show it off. Not to mention this wall that extends underwater way deeper than it should do for some reason. I have no idea why this is here, and I have no idea how deep it goes. But it's there. As well as getting Mario out of bounds, you can get a Cheep itself out of bounds in the Lake Kingdom too. And it's probably one of the hardest glitches that I've had to get working in this entire video. And that is no joke. This took about 2 hours to get footage for, so you better like it. First, you've got to get a Cheep into the starting pond, and to do that, you've got to catch one in the main lake, use this flower launcher to awkwardly jump up onto the higher ground, then make your way back into the starting pool before it suffocates and disappears. Once you've got it here, you've got to leave the enemy under the center of this floating island, which sounds really simple, but this is actually what took hours to get right, because there's so much that you need to do in order to get that to happen. You've got to hold dive, swing the Joy-Con to attack, press ZL with frame-perfect precision to be allowed to uncapture the enemy under here. Then when you eventually escape, you've got to be fast enough to jump up onto the platform, ground pound it, then jump back in the water and capture the Cheep again. All of that happens within about 5 seconds, so good luck if you're going to try it out for yourself. There's still not much to do out here though, it's pretty much the same sort of thing in the Seaside Kingdom, so just let your ADHD run wild like mine. You've got to be careful with this one too, because there are some places that you can die by swimming there accidentally in this kingdom. Next up, let's talk about the Uproot enemies that you can find in the Wooded Kingdom. These are some of the more odd designs that you can see in the game, but with odd designs come odd glitches. When you capture one of these, extend its legs to the max by holding the jump button, then release and quickly enter into snapshot mode. Moving the camera around will make its legs and body disappear, and if you zoom into the head of the enemy, you can get this weird distortion pattern to happen sometimes. You can't control the distortion, but it's oddly satisfying to watch it appear. Ooh, a Dustox that's had a cannonball shot through it. There is some kind of timing that you have to hit between releasing the jump button and entering into snapshot mode, but if you keep trying, you're definitely going to hit it sooner or later and be able to look at all of the pretty patterns that you could ever want to. And if that Uproot glitch doesn't do it for you, then there's another that you can use to teleport yourself across a level. Capturing one of these enemies on the same frame that it touches water will stop the capture from happening, and instead Mario will be teleported to the last place that you captured it instead. If fast travelling isn't your style and you'd rather try to do a really precise trick to get to one specific point in a kingdom that you probably don't need to be, then this is the glitch for you. Though it'll probably take you way longer to get where you need to be than if you just played the game normally, I think. If you tried this glitch without capturing the Uproot first, then you'll get teleported to the level's origin coordinates of 000, but it just leads you to this out of bounds area with no floor. Luckily the trigger for the Dark Woods is down here, so you won't die anyway, but even if you did, you only lose 10 coins. So sometimes you can even guide Mario over to this out of bounds section at the start of the level too instead of falling. There's not really a lot to do out here, and you're going to find this as a recurring theme in this video actually, because most of the out of bounds glitches aren't really all that helpful. Speaking of unhelpful, on your way to collect the super secret zipper moon in the Lake Kingdom, you'll find this zipper with another one in the middle of it. Unzipping the first one drops the wall down, then unzipping the second one lets you fall down to the moon below. You can just barely make a jump high enough to reach the middle zipper and skip the outer one, so if you activate it this way, the section that's meant to drop you to the moon will fall down the wall instead. Then if you decide to grab the outer zip, the big wall will fall down, leaving the small one in place. Definitely not how physics works, I can tell you that for free. If you turn around from the platform where we trigger this glitch, you'll see that there's another zipper across the gap which has a much more game-breaking property too. If you commit to a huge jump from here over to the platform that has the 32 mini Goombas on it, you can capture the zipper on the far side of the platform, start to move it to release the moon, then fast travel to the Odyssey to completely break the game. This simple sequence of button presses causes a solid screen freeze and an error message to pop up, so time to reset the console again, I guess. You'll be able to trigger another crash all the way at the very start of the game in the Cascade Kingdom too, and it's pretty much as easy to do as this one, except you've got to do it semi-blind. When you enter into this sub-area, you'll find a few chain chomps hopping around, minding their own business, but these chomps won't actually load until you look at them. To trigger the game crash here, you've just got to catch one of them before it actually loads by entering into the area and adjusting the camera so that they stay off screen. If you throw Cappy where you expect one of the chomps to load, then enter snapshot mode and turn the camera around to see that Cappy is in the right place, the switch will say nope again and close the game the same way that it did in the Lake Kingdom crash. The reason is never given to you, it'll just stay like this until you close the game. Nice! Chain Chomps actually have another great glitch tied to them, or should I say chained, or for the purpose of this glitch, unchained. At the top of the Cascade Kingdom you'll find these two chain chomps. If you capture one of them, then release it right where the other chomp's chain is locked into the ground, you'll see a pretty interesting effect if you run far enough away from the chomps before the one you're in control of regains consciousness. As soon as the chomp springs back to life, it'll bump into the other one, sending it floating into the distance forever. It's a long process, but you can watch the chain chomp float all the way over into the background scenery if you want to wait long enough, as we saw in the intro glitches, and this'll carry on until you reset the area by warping to a checkpoint, but I think it's much more fun to watch it floating away. If the chomp comes too close to you, or you head into its area too soon, then it tries to return to its origin point, which can also have some pretty interesting results if you time it just right. I don't think this is meant to happen, but you can even capture this chomp and do absolutely nothing with it if that tickles your pickle. The glitch is called Chain Chomp Displacement, and I absolutely love it. Why something so simple like this works is a total mystery to me, but it makes for great entertainment, and chain chomps aren't the only thing in the game that you can displace like this either. Over in the Luncheon Kingdom you'll find an area with a couple of hammer bros who seem to have swapped out their hammers for pans to match the theme of this kingdom. Well, the one hopping around the blocks can get displaced if you make it fall off the blocks directly on top of a spiny enemy. You'll need to hit the spiny with Cappy to strategically place it a certain distance away from the blocks, then hit the hammer bro with perfect timing to knock it on top and cause this weird floating effect. The angle that it lands on top of the spiny will affect the direction that it starts to float away, but this was the only angle I actually tried since it was the easiest, and believe me, even getting it to work just twice took me around an hour of attempts to get right, so I don't recommend trying this one either, honestly. That is until I found out you can do this using two turnips from the top of the cliff and got it to work in about 10 minutes, because turnips can't walk around and ruin the glitch. At least you got to see two versions of this glitch, I guess, and you can even change which way the pan bro displaces by placing the turnips in different positions, so if you set them upright, you can watch it fly off into orbit. As a bonus glitch here, you can use this hammer bro to navigate over to the building with the 3 moons above the door in town, then squeeze out of bounds just by playing around between this green thing and the wall. Absolutely nothing back here, again, but you can walk on the air in a small area back here. Other than that, it's just a neat little one to try out for yourselves. And if you thought it was just the chain chomp and hammer bro that you could get to disappear into the distance with the displacement glitch, then you'd be mistaken, because there is one last one, and it's the easiest out of all of them to try. In the Sand Kingdom you'll find Jaxi, the Jaguar Statue Taxi. For the small cost of 30 coins, he can be pretty handy for traversing the land, and you'll need him to collect a couple of moons in this kingdom too. He usually just stands around waiting for you to jump on him, but if you haven't paid the 30 coins to ride him yet, you can throw Glide-On at him to make him slide across the floor, or displace him, just like we did in the Chain Chomp glitch. Jaxi will have some really strange gravity whilst he's sliding around like this, which you can see anytime he slides over a ledge, and this effect will carry on until you hit him with Cappy or jump on him, so watch out where you do it or you'll lose him off the edge of a cliff never to be seen again. Until you reload the area anyway. If you decide to talk to Jaxi after he's been sliding for a while, the camera will focus all the way back to where you moved him from, and this will cause a minor softlock where you can't do anything at all until you walk back to a checkpoint. Instead of using Glide-On, you can push him around with a sheep as well if you really feel like chasing one across the entire kingdom, but maybe don't use that method if you're in a hurry. If you do happen to have a ton of spare time to waste though, then boy have I got a time-wasting glitch for you in this kingdom. Instead of chasing the sheep towards Jaxi, chase it all the way over to the oasis in the southeast corner of the kingdom and it'll get a new glitchy property. Whilst over here, Sheep will slowly back up to Mario whenever he's close to them, and as you move around, the sheep's back end will automatically tilt towards you no matter where you are, and they do it really slowly until they're standing directly in front of him. Why? Why does this happen at the oasis? What kind of coding gives the sheep a different way of working in this specific area? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but they also have some kind of magnetic effect where they get pulled towards each other or towards other NPCs. In fact, if you drag one close to an NPC, it'll back up until the NPC is inside it. And because of this weird glitch, you can position one right up to the edge of the oasis, ground pound on its back and land in the water to delay when the sheep gets launched, as it'll only get thrown up into the air once Mario eventually touches down on solid ground. Whee! Yeah, that's a glitch too. I have no idea. I told you they were pointless. What do you want me to say? Heading back to the Cascade Kingdom, do you remember the first time you laid eyes on this T-Rex? It was like, holy crap, am I going to get to control this thing? And the answer was, of course, yeah, you can. Before you capture it, you can find some dodgy collision around this toe, and crouch walking into it can cause you to pop right through the ground and out of bounds to your death. Helped me see these purple coins that I missed though, so I guess it was actually kinda helpful for me. Alright, other than that, toe clip isn't great, but the T-Rex has such a large hitbox that you can get it trapped in some odd situations if you decide to uncapture it in certain places. If you release it while standing on or around this wall, it can get stuck on the wall glitching out forever, and it'll never disappear in this state because it never manages to get to its released animation and you can't recapture it, so you'll have to reload the area if you want to do anything with it again. There's a really specific spot over here on the bridge as well that turning around and releasing the dino will cause him to get trapped under the low section of bridge if you fidget around enough. It's clear to see that there could have been many reasons for this majestic creature to have become extinct. From one majestic creature to another back in the Seaside Kingdom, but no, this time we're not talking about a fish, it's the Shiba Inu. This pup will follow you around since you're clearly such a friendly character, but you can get a bit mean by guiding the dog over to these blocks and jumping on it whilst it's underneath them. You'll continuously bounce off the dog at a glorious 60 frames per second, and I'm sure that Mario won't have any kind of major brain damage after this, so don't worry about it. You can do it in the doorway to the Odyssey too. I actually think that Nintendo seriously underestimated how much players would love bouncing on this good boy's head, because there's another, much better glitch that you can do with them if you travel over to the moon. Here you'll find a pup wearing a space helmet, and if you face the same way as he is, then keep jumping on him and throwing Cappy at the top of the jump, you'll quickly start to realise that he starts to gain height with each bounce that you make. The only hard part of this glitch is the randomness of the first jump the dog does, but after that you can get pretty much as high as you like with this one. I'm sad to say though that you'll never make it back to Earth. Is it Earth? I don't know actually. What planet does Mario live on? Mushroom Kingdom? Mushroom Planet? I don't know, but he's got a moon. You can do this in other kingdoms too, but it's way harder than it is on the moon since the gravity is normal. It'll take a full bounce, a well-timed ground pound, and then repeat for as long as you're able to keep it up. Once you're in a rhythm it's not so bad, but getting real height takes quite a while since the dog doesn't jump as high, so have fun. The Metro Kingdom is home to some of my absolute favourite glitches in this game without a doubt. These letters in particular are amazing. You can capture them using Cappy and move them around like almost anything else in the game, and if you've never seen them before then I don't know how you've missed them. I mean, you can even see them from the platform that the Odyssey sits on. The first time that you captured them, I'm sure that you ignored the obvious slots that they're meant to fit into and tried to walk around the city instead, but you'll have found out pretty quickly that the area that you're allowed to use them in is only small, with invisible walls stopping you from walking out in front of cars. Health and safety is priority in the city, it seems. Well, health and safety is at the bottom of my list of things to think about, so let's use a glitch called Letter Escape to get them out of there. First, you need to put any letter other than the M in the corner of the invisible barriers with its colour facing towards the road. Then grab the M and put it at a 90-degree angle as close to the letter that you're trying to free from this prison. Next, grab a scooter and ride towards the side of the M, making sure that you jump and dismount right as you're about to touch it. If you get the timing right, then the scooter will stick to the side of the M vertically like a magnet. With the scooter glued to the side like this, take control of the M and move the control stick very lightly until it pops into the letter that you're trying to free. Then take control of that letter and it should pop right on through the invisible barrier and into the street. And that's it. You're free to wander around wherever you like, and there's plenty of weird and wonderful bonus glitches that the letters bring to the table too, like cheating at jump rope. You see? I knew there was a good reason that you weren't allowed to bring them down to this area. You've also got letter-specific glitches, like you can use the letter A to clip into almost any wall that you want to just by putting it close and then jumping between the two. It can take a little bit of fidgeting, but what's a little time spent when you can scare the crap out of people by using Cappy through the wall? With the letter R, and using a stupid amount of moving and manipulating of things, you can clip it into a taxi, just barely run it over into the RC car area, and then use the weird collision that the R's leg has to clip the RC car out of its play area and drive it around the streets of New Donk, even though you can't really see much, so it's kinda pointless. It's a fun challenge to see just how far you can get it without being able to see it though. The glitch I showed you at the very start of this video is called letter Hyperspeed, and it's triggered by leaving a letter in the middle of the road until a taxi drives through it, capturing the letter, then wandering around the edge of the taxi's hitbox until it fires you into the distance at incredible speed. I've got to say, this is definitely one of my favourite things to do with letter escape because you never know just where you're going to end up or how fast you're going to get flung out of that taxi's hitbox. I reckon you could even get launched to the next kingdom without needing to use the Odyssey. Probably not though, I'm not sure that's how this game works. And for anyone wondering, yeah, there's even a way to get the M into the street too, and it's really not that difficult once you know exactly where things need to be positioned. First you've got to place the A so that its green is facing away from the street and have it sat pretty much exactly in this spot, so its left leg is hanging over the first step slightly and its right leg is angled towards the jump rope minigame. Then place the M right here with its colour facing towards the A. As soon as you've got them in these very specific positions, grab the scooter and magnetise it towards the side of the M again before taking control of it, and with any luck, moving the control stick a little will cause it to pop out of bounds. There's really only one glitch that this letter has that's worth showing off, and it is incredible. You can move this man around with its right leg. And I am not kidding either. This is the only person in the whole of New Donk City that you can move using the M like this, and I tried every single person that I could find too. Trust me. You can even get him a free taxi ride out of here if you put him in front of a car. It's like the drivers here can literally only see Mario. It's weird. Speaking of more weird things, everything about this junction in New Donk City looks completely normal, but it's actually the intersection that warps you to a sub-area when you take control of this taxi and drive it away from the curb. This taxi isn't the only way to get into the sub-area though, because you can trigger the loading zone in a couple of other odd ways too. If you throw Cappy towards this pole and hold him there, then run as far away as you can before shaking the controller to capture the pole, there's a chance that the screen transition will happen and you'll be teleported to the sub-area that we just saw without having to use the taxi at all. Another way to trigger this is using the letter escape glitch that we just learnt about to walk over the junction as any of the letters. If you're struggling with the pole version of this glitch, then this is definitely the easiest way to do it. And finally, whilst playing around with this one, I found that sometimes the glitch will trigger simply by walking over the loading zone and doing absolutely nothing else. All of these methods are cool to see, but if you're planning on heading into this sub-area, then I can guarantee you that it's easier to just use the taxi and do it the normal way. If you can find this pole randomly sticking out of the side of a building down one of the side streets, you can use it to glitch right through some collision and into a building you were never meant to be in, giving you this beautiful view from inside. The angle you need for this glitch isn't too precise, but you will need to shake your controller to get the speed required to clip through. This is very important information because I spent 15 minutes releasing the analog stick to flick until I realised it's impossible to clip in that way. It turned out to be yet another pointless glitch once I realised you can just use the letter A to clip into anything. We're going to stay in the Metro Kingdom for just a little longer because you can even find 2 softlock glitches here which are really easy to try for yourselves. The first one involves making your way to the top of New Donk City and entering this time challenge with the scooter that somehow ended up on the roof of this building 40 floors up. All you've got to do is collect the key at the very last moment that the platforms for the time challenge disappear and you'll be floating in the air indefinitely with no way to stop it. I know we've seen gliding bikes in Mario Kart 8, but this is something else completely. It's clear that having no platform to spawn the moon on just confuses the game into this mess, and the next softlock is pretty much the same kind of thing. Once you've beaten the entire game, head back to the town hall where Pauline will be waiting for you. If you press A to talk to her, then the screen will fade out and then back in, bringing you into the quiz mode. This screen fade causes everything around you to freeze like time has stopped. It's really easy to see if you throw a hat in her face just before talking to her, because it'll be floating there until you finish the chat. Unfortunately, because of the way the camera locks onto Pauline and the City Hall, you won't be able to see the rest of your surroundings, unless you interfere. Instead of talking to Pauline before the hat hits her, talk to her on the exact same frame that it hits her in the face. This stops the screen from fading out, and you'll be softlocked in limbo like this forever, again. The only thing you can do during this softlock is turn the camera to look at all of the people suffering in the background, forced to listen to the steam leaving the sewers for all eternity. The only way out of this one, just like all the other softlock glitches we've seen in this game, is to reset your switch. So when the game reloads, make your way over to the Wooded Kingdom again and find one of these Sherm enemies, because they have a really strange property if you jump on them on the same frame that they respawn. If you get the timing right, then you'll be able to continuously jump on this invisible Sherm for as long as you want, but as soon as you stop, it'll fully load and be visible as it should. You'll also find them spawning in the air in one section of the level, and even though it takes a fairly tricky jump to get up to the platform it spawns next to, not only will it be invisible, but it'll float too if you manage to land on one the moment it appears. So, that's something. Mario Odyssey is a beautiful game, I don't think that any of us can deny that, but the corners of it are always obscured by the heads-up display like your compass, HP, coins, and especially moon counters when you've collected this many without visiting the Odyssey. I'm sure we can all agree that they're a huge waste of space, but you can maximise your viewing area by triggering a glitch that uses the binoculars in each kingdom. To do it, you need to capture a set of binoculars and fly up into the air, press ZL to release, then enter snapshot mode on this exact frame as the binoculars are moving back down to the ground, and when you exit snapshot mode and gain control again, you'll be able to run around with nothing blocking the corners. All of the heads-up display information will stay hidden until you trigger something that calls for them again, like collecting another moon, entering a new area, or warping to a flag. It's a basic glitch, but I really like it, unlike the next one, which some of you might have triggered by accident on your playthrough. In this 2D section of the Luncheon Kingdom, exiting at the very top in a certain way will make the kingdom's gravity screw up and cause Mario to fall sideways off the level. So you better be careful how you exit this one, because you can do it accidentally if your ADHD fingers tap the jump button all the time like mine do. You can trigger yet another totally useless, barely noticeable glitch by rolling into and grabbing a nut whilst it's touching the shoreline of water. For some reason, grabbing onto a nut whilst it's in this position will cause it to expand into a super-sized nut for a couple of frames before going back to normal, and it looks way more impressive if you freeze frame it. Look at the size of that thing! Okay, I swear that's the last of the boring glitches for now. I've got a couple of complicated ones here that I think you're really gonna like. The first one is known as globe storage, where you interrupt the cutscene that usually happens when Cappy grabs the globe, so that it won't trigger until you look in the direction of the Odyssey again. And the cool thing about this glitch is that no matter how far away from the Odyssey you are, facing the right direction will instantly pop you back to it. The only catch is, despite the easy sounding explanation, is that it can be pretty difficult to get right, like most of the interesting glitches in this game. Start off by throwing and holding Cappy in front of the globe, then turn and run or roll away as fast as you can. Once you're a good enough distance away, shake your controller and instantly enter snapshot mode, then turn around to look at Cappy again. If he's not latched onto the globe yet, rapidly exit and enter snapshot mode to advance the game very slowly until you see that he's sat on the globe properly. The moment he connects with the globe like this, turn the camera away from the Odyssey again, exit snapshot mode, then run around to your heart's content, making sure to keep the camera pointing away from the Odyssey if you can. You'll know if you successfully triggered the glitch because Mario won't have Cappy with him whilst it's active, meaning you can't use him. Now that you've activated the glitch, if you turn the camera around to the Odyssey at any time, then you'll instantly pop back to it to hand over all of the juicy moons that you've been collecting. And by looking at the Odyssey at different times, you can make different things happen. Like, if you decide to teleport to the Odyssey and then set sail whilst you're in the middle of taking on one of the Koopa Troopa Trace Walk challenges, the challenge music will still play, but this is all you'll see no matter how long you wait. Once again, you've essentially softlocked the game. If that's not the type of glitch that you're looking for, then you can also use it to delay cutscenes by teleporting on the same frame that a cutscene is about to start. As an example, smash this box open in the Lake Kingdom to reveal the moon, but enter snapshot mode on the exact same frame and aim to look for the Odyssey. You'll teleport to the Odyssey, but choosing cancel from the menu will allow the Release Moon's cutscene to play out. I'm really not sure why you'd want to do that, so this one, again, seems totally useless to me. If you teleport back to the Odyssey whilst you're playing the volleyball minigame in the Seaside Kingdom, then choose to leave and head to a different kingdom, then the volleyball icon and score will stay up on screen until the Odyssey leaves. This one seems quite odd to me, because I'm sure the Odyssey taking off should override anything else that's going on in the level, but doesn't seem like it. My personal favourite and the most helpful use of this glitch for a regular player is that you can save yourself from certain death when you make a huge jump and know you're not going to make it to the other side. And I'm sure that you can find plenty of places that you want to save yourself like this, but it also means that you'd have to trigger the globe storage glitch at the same time, so maybe it's just better to get good instead. Next up, the Talkatoo Glitch. You may have seen this one before since it's the most famous and original jump rope glitch that was discovered, but before we get into any of the effects, you need to know how to trigger it. Getting this one to work is as simple as getting an object or Cappy to hit Talkatoo immediately after he finishes talking to Mario. It doesn't look like much if you're standing still, but if you trigger it correctly and start moving around, you'll notice that the camera is locked in the talking position, and that's the glitch. And I know, it doesn't look like much, but this simple tiny glitch has a couple of interesting and fun side glitches to play around with that make it worth taking a deeper look into. If for instance you trigger the glitch and then run away from him straight away, the camera won't lock in place until you turn around and look at him again, just like we saw in globe storage. And that's not always as boring as it looks because you can lock the camera from a huge distance away, leading to some pretty strange camera perspectives where you can see some odd things happen to objects that are far away from Mario. Oh, and I managed to capture the globe at the Odyssey with the camera like this, which triggered the Talkatoo text and changed the angle of the camera, which I didn't know you could do. I mean, talking to NPCs or interactive signs does trigger the Talkatoo text before their own text shows, but the globe thing, that was news to me. Always keep a note that you can still run around off screen while the camera is locked, and if you somehow manage to navigate yourself a miracle and manage to enter a building or sub-area that's still part of the main map, you can see what effect it has on the outside areas of the kingdom. Apparently, entering the auditorium in the Metro Kingdom gives a nice nighttime effect outside with tons of bloom on buildings. Who knew? Some of the more fun glitches I love are animation based, like if you throw Cappy just as the camera locks, Mario will be put into this sliding animation instead of a running one. He's like a little hovercraft floating around the place. Climbing a pole as the glitch is activated will cause him to enter a walking animation while trapped in the pole. And doing a ground pound will cause Mario to float in the air indefinitely, until you press the Y button to dive anyway. And of course, we all know that the last effect is the reason that Jump Rope had such ridiculous scores, since, just like with the letter glitch, you could trigger it whilst in the air above the rope to gain a high score as high as you could ever want. Going back to the start of this episode, I mentioned another glitch on the darker side of the moon, and you can trigger this pretty much the moment that you leave the Odyssey and gain control of Mario. A couple of platforms into the level, you'll come across a pond and 2 frogs, and this is all we need to trigger one of the oddest and surprisingly most helpful glitches in the entire game, believe it or not. First, capture one of these frogs and jump up into the air. Then, uncapture it, bounce on the other frog's head whilst it's in the air, then capture that one. It's a little harder than it looks, but you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly, thankfully. For reasons unknown, doing this will make the game think that the frog is swimming. Throwback to the Spyro the Dragon glitch picnic, am I right? And to answer your question, yes, you can use this glitch to skip the entire Culmina crater just by swimming over to the skyscraper in the distance. That'll be some welcome news to some of you that absolutely hate that area with a passion. I know, I can't believe it either. An easy to do and helpful glitch? It's unheard of. Some YouTubers that have shown this glitch off before will tell you that there are invisible walls around the perimeter of the area that stop you from escaping the main area, but I have in fact discovered that this is a total lie. I agree, it looks like there's an invisible wall as at a certain point the camera gets closer to Mario as if he's walking into something. Not only that, but at this point you can turn around to see most of the graphics in the area have been unloaded, only leaving the Odyssey's balloon in the distance. But if you continue to swim in the same direction, you can see the shadows on the crater's edge moving, and when you stop, they stop. So of course, I tried to escape the world, or moon in this case, but it seems like the background to this area is locked with Mario in the middle, so you'll never be able to reach the edges. The Odyssey does, however, start to disappear in the distance eventually, and it'll even turn into Pac-Man at one point too because of the background overrunning it, so that's pretty cool. If you ever manage to find your way back to the playing area after losing the Odyssey completely, reaching the fake invisible wall will pop everything back into view so that you can finish it off like normal. And when I say normal, I mean as normal as a flying frog through space can be, I guess. I can't forget to tell you about this last little frog glitch either. You can get it to walk underwater by jumping into Nessie's chest a few times while swimming. I didn't show this glitch before the swimming in air glitch because it's so impressive that you'd have been disappointed by the swimming in air thing. I'm pretty sure of it. Originally, this was planned to be the end of the video, but since it's been so long since the last upload, I thought I'd better make it worthwhile for you and decided to double the glitches. And I am not kidding, I pretty much finished this entire edit with 29 glitches, which is on screen now, and I ended up with 65, so you better stick around or I'll be pissed. Just check the description if you don't believe me. There's a few glitches to see in the Mushroom Kingdom, and the first one involves a scooter in a tree. And no, that's not the setup to a cheesy joke. Just grab hold of a scooter, then ride it into a tree with a jump, and you'll see that it has some really strange collision where you stick to the side at weird angles. If you hit a certain angle, then you can fall through the floor to your death where the tree meets the floor, but if you're lucky, then you'll bounce out of bounds at an angle right onto the edge of the pond. The scooter won't last long down here though, since it can't ride on water, but you can swim a fair distance in this underwater area, and it looks pretty good from down here. The tree glitch that you can find in the courtyard is much more interesting though, I have to admit. The trees here work like Mario 64 trees, and it's called the billboard effect. They face towards the camera wherever it is, so you can exploit this by positioning the camera in a certain way, using snapshot mode to freeze time, and while time is frozen, move the camera back around and exit snapshot mode whilst looking at the tree that's facing directly backwards. Doing this will cause Mario to warp to it for some reason. There's also a pretty complicated get out of bounds using the tree thing, but I've got absolutely no chance of getting this to work, so you'll have to watch this stolen clip from IK doing it instead. Pretty impressive, but it must have taken quite a lot of experimenting to get out here. Since I was never going to get that to work, I had to settle for something a little easier to do. Take control of Yoshi on the roof of the castle, jump off this edge, flutter for a second, and then tongue the wall below the roof. If you do it exactly right, you'll get this strange glitchy fling and land higher on the roof than you're meant to. Be under no illusion though, I was trying this for about 45 minutes before the fling happened, so absolutely 0% worth it. I'm just glad that I got it to work, and now you can watch the only other example I've ever seen of it online that Relaxmas managed to clip as well. You can also extend Yoshi's tongue whilst jumping off this section of the level, and it'll be way longer than it's meant to be. Hello ladies, am I right? Probably not. It's fucking Yoshi. If you take a nut back onto the roof of the castle with you and do a well-angled jump into this spire whilst holding it, you can hit a weird collision which causes a phenomenon known as nut gliding. It's pretty tricky to get right, especially if you're aiming to get all the way around the spire, which I didn't quite manage, but thankfully it's easy to attempt this tons of times in a row and is about as useful as the last glitch that I want to show off in the Mushroom Kingdom. If you find and stand right on the very edge of the painting here and then jump and throw Cappy in a specific way, Mario will get sucked towards the painting at a weird upside down angle and not actually manage to get taken to the other side. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this one to work as no one I asked knew exactly what the technique was, but here's a clip from Circle doing it, and trust me, I really tried, but it was impossible. Back over in the Luncheon Kingdom, you'll be able to find plenty of Goombas roaming around near the first section, and you can actually make good use of them to climb up the steep edges of the crystally, bismuthy slopes in this level using a tricky glitch. If you try to jump on a slope that's too steep, your Goomba will start to slide down it in this neutral animation, but if you jump towards it and release the Goomba so that it lands on a slope, or next to it as this seemed to work, then capture it again and mash X as fast as you can, your little guy will start to scale the slope. Doing this of course means that you can get them to places they weren't intended to be, and you can actually take a couple with you up the side of the volcano and glitch through the bottom of the pot at the top, without ever capturing the meat as intended in the storyline of this kingdom. But it's so difficult that I'm not willing to go further than this. It's not impossible, you can do it, it's right here in front of your eyes as seen by Beard Bear. It's just that getting through the pot and these perfect damage boosts it takes a lot of skill, and I am not a skillful man, as you know. If you defeat the stacks of Goomba and then run away and turn back around, you'll see that they respawn as single Goombas, and to see the next glitch you have to painstakingly follow this path that you can see me taking here by using the climbing glitch to navigate all the way around the edge of the cliffs like this. Trust me when I say it feels like this takes an eternity to get all the Goomba over here, and that's because it does. And let me tell you, it takes even longer if you accidentally kill them whilst getting them into the right position. So my days, you better enjoy this ridiculously pointless glitch that I'm about to show you. Once you manage to get them all to this point, you need to move them all to the platform over there. And once you've got them all right where you want them, you'll be able to get a glitchy effect that really isn't worth the amount of time that you dragged them all over here for. Capture a Podoboo, get them to chase you into this corner where you'll see right away that they start to bug out a little, swim away from the platform a bit and aim the camera down to get them off camera, enter snapshot mode, turn the camera around and then exit to see them all zip around. This is kinda like a proxy that we've seen in other games where two enemies can't occupy the same space, so when we get them all off screen, they all get tangled together and turning back around whilst they're like that forces them out of each other's space at high speed. That's it. Yeah, just that. I could have learnt the piano in the amount of time it took me to record the clips for this one, and I am serious, but at least I found out that the Goombas can bully the lava tomato, which is probably more exciting to see than the glitch that I was actually showing you. While we're in Luncheon, head down to this small safe area right below one of the Goomba stacks where you'll find two Podoboos jumping out with opposite timings. When one drops in the lava, the other jumps out. And yes, this is pink lava. The kingdom has a volcano in the middle, so there. Anyway, in 2-player mode, try to sync their jumping up by capturing and releasing one of them. When you see them jumping in and out of the lava at the same time, then you're good to go. All you need to do from here is capture one of the enemies at the peak of their jump and then have player 2 flick between the two enemies quickly. With a little luck, Mario will be riding the Podoboo instead of possessing it. From here, you'll be able to ride the Podoboo around the level like this to your heart's content, and I think it's great, especially when you jump and get Mario to do a nonchalant front flip. To save you a headache, it's probably worth noting that this only seems to work in assist mode, at least it's the only way that I could get it to work. It also looks like it only works if you get rescued by a bubble right before you capture, but try it yourself and let me know what you find. You know, in this whole video we've not even taken a look at any glitches in the Snow Kingdom yet, and there's a half decent glitch to be found in the Rocket Flower sub-area. If you collect every single flower along the way and then ignore the moon at the very end of the track and jump off the back left corner of the ledge with enough rocket power left and a little help from a cap jump as you get to the wall, you can just about make it far enough to get through and escape the death plane, meaning you can fall forever just like we did in the Culmina crater freeze glitch. Again, nothing to see, but pretty cool, cause we're in snow. You get it? These jokes just get worse. I said there's nothing to see, but actually, if you leave Mario to fall for a long time, then his and Cappy's model on the pause menu will become more and more distorted over time relative to how long you've been falling. After 15 to 20 minutes, you can already see his eyes start to get a little glitchy and his model starts to jitter around noticeably. After an hour and a half, his face shading starts to become very apparent like it's in layers or something. After 2 hours, the polygons in the model start to move around and any edges just can't seem to keep their shape properly. Then, if we skip ahead to 9 hours, which is as long as I ended up doing this for, it only gets more impressive. I'm sure you get the point by now, the longer that you leave the game running, the more it will distort, and according to Tetra's calculations from the Odyssey speedrunning community, it'll take around 5 days and 22 hours for the distortion to reach a point where it'll never get any worse. Glitchtastic managed to show what happens after 50 hours of falling, and it's pretty incredible, I have to say. I really want to know what happens after the full 6 days, but no, I'm not going to put myself through that. If you want detailed information on what causes this glitch, Supported in Tetra gave a great explanation on Discord which you can pause the video to read now, but if you're ready to move on, let's head over to Snowline Circuit. As soon as you get here, take a look at the background and you'll be able to see NPCs spectating races from outside of the waiting room. That area that they're standing in is blocked off by big glass windows, so we can't go and stand with them or run onto the racetrack and ruin the event for the people already racing, but there's a pretty easy glitch, for a change, that'll let us get out of bounds and watch with them. If you capture the guy standing here, you can gain bounce speed by timing jumps off the ground and hitting this bar a few times. If you get enough speed up and then release him with the right timing, you'll ping through the glass and be in the spectator area and be able to hang around with all of the Chivarians out here. If you get bored, that's totally fine. Most of the racecourse has collision, so you can jump over to it and explore there too. Kinda. Any of the greyish areas next to the racecourse are perfectly fine to walk around on, but it's quicksand for some reason, so you'll have to keep jumping or die. And flat areas around here are a little janky, which means that most of them can cause Mario to die if you try and walk on them. So I'd recommend assist mode if you want to do some more exploring, even though that didn't help me because apparently I'm just stuck in a loop of death here. Giving up on that race, there's another out-of-bounds glitch in the kingdom that you can trigger using the giant Ty-Foo enemies, though it's a little disappointing in comparison. Just capture one, head over to a wall, then press B to blow. In this position, you just have to release the enemy and you should be on the other side where you can get trapped in this little challenge room. Your positioning does play a part in getting it to work, and this seems to be the only place that this version of it works, but there is a way to get out of bounds anywhere using a Ty-Foo, because if you look carefully when using its blow technique with its back against a wall, it'll tilt its head back into it. So you've just got to face away from a wall, blow, and then quickly release whilst Cappy is in the wall, and you'll be out of bounds again, which seems to work on pretty much any wall. Like most of the other out-of-bounds glitches in this game though, you'll generally find death and unhappiness, which means, and you guessed it, there is no point in this one either unless you want to get to this sub-area from the back. It's probably just as easy to get to it from the front, so... ugh. You can find yet another nut glitch here in the Snow Kingdom too if you bonk into a wall with water beneath it whilst holding one. For some reason, it can cause Mario to do this weird upside-down slide thing for a second. You can do this in quite a few places, but good luck getting it to work, because once again this is a glitch that I was trying for over an hour, and these clips you're seeing are the only 3 times that I got it to work. If the water is too deep, then Mario will just kinda sink holding the nut, but if it's too shallow, he'll ping upright as soon as he touches the ground, which happened to me a lot. This clip from butchered name Mnyush is probably the longest slide I've seen, and I am absolutely jealous of it. But if you know what you're doing, it seems like nuts and water seem to have some really weird properties in this game. For the final glitch in this kingdom, and arguably the most impressive, you can get Mario to do a double ground pound kind of thing on these ice platforms that sink just by doing one and holding the left trigger as it lowers into the water. Maybe it's time to head over to the Lost Kingdom for a couple, because the glitches here are... they're becoming a reach, let's be honest. The first thing we're going to look at here is climbing trees in the wrong way. What do you mean that makes no sense? I mean that instead of getting this animation, you'll get something like this. It's a pretty easy one to trigger. You've just got a handstand at the top of the tree, flick the control stick down so that Mario slides back into the climbing animation, slide down a tiny bit more until you're about this far from the tip, then press up to climb and he should hug the top of the tree instead of handstanding. It'll likely take a few tries to get the position right, but as soon as you see him hugging the top of the tree like this, you can use a combination of left, right or down to get some less than practical climbing done, including floating in the air way off the tree. By playing around for a long time, you can eventually get him upside down, and if you climb to the bottom of the tree you can clip into the ground a little, and from the bottom you can slide back up the tree backwards, so I guess this one breaks gravity too. Turns out we've discovered the first anti-gravity monkey power-up in this series. This one is definitely worth trying for yourselves, because you might be able to find some new wacky combination that does something even weirder than these things. The Lost Kingdom is also home to these awesome tropical wiggler enemies whose ability is to stretch over gaps, and of course this stretchy feature was always bound to have some glitches associated with it. If you make your way over a ledge, release the analog stick on the same frame that you start falling, then press the stretch button. The wiggler should stop in the air for a second with its tail attached to either itself or the ledge that you fell from and be stretching downwards. It can be hard to see because it's kinda quick, but they definitely latch onto themselves for some reason. It's super easy to get out of bounds anywhere using one of these guys too. All you gotta do is place another wiggler or glide on next to a wall so that there's a small gap between them. Then stretch the wiggler between them, and when it unstretches it'll get stuck between the two and pop right into the wall. It's nice and easy, though there's not much to explore in the places you go out of bounds as usual. I tried this all over the place, and I'm happy to say that it works pretty much everywhere that you try it, but it's easier to do it next to a ledge where the wiggler will retract properly every time you try, usually results in death right away, and it's still not as fun as this. I can pretty much guarantee that tons of people have already seen this one, but one of my favourite glitches to do with these guys is to stand on Uncle Amiibo's head, stretch out, and enjoy the ride. Obviously it's totally useless, but I'm surprised by how fast you can spin by doing this actually. It's so fast that you can even clip through this tree every now and then. It really is a fun one to try out for yourselves, but it's probably not that fun for Uncle Amiibo. Certainly doesn't look happy anyway. There's also one last amazing wiggler glitch that we can trigger here at the platforms in the sub-area. Apparently, playing around and catching these fellas can lead to randomly teleporting Mario way up in the air with an invisible wiggler, before it appears and falls back down to the level with you. I tried this for quite some time with no luck, so once again I've got to thank Relaxmas for having the only evidence of this that I could find online, otherwise I'd have never believed it. Okay, let's move away from the Lost Kingdom and take a look at a couple of glitches using our old friend Glydon. In the non-updated version of the game, you can use a corner clip to get Glydon out of bounds really easily. You've just got to fidget around on the corner of a ledge like this, and if you hit the right angle he'll drop into the corner, and from there you can just walk right on through. You've obviously got to be careful where you do this because of dying and stuff, but it's a pretty simple one to try out for yourselves if you have the first version of the game. As you probably already know, his real purpose is to help you glide around levels to your heart's content, so long as you do it from a height, because he'll constantly lose altitude and eventually touch down on the ground. Well, there's a really simple glitch where if you walk off a slope and then instantly glide and shake your controller, he'll start to gain height if you carefully tilt him 90 degrees to the left or right. It's a pretty impressive oversight if you ask me, and now you can fly pretty much wherever you like in some levels. You can trigger this glitch on these steps in the Sand Kingdom, this slope in the Wooded Kingdom, the tower in the middle of Lake Kingdom, and the stairs in the Lost Kingdom. You can get pretty high using this, but you'll probably reach the boundary of the level before hitting any kind of ceiling, and it doesn't really matter anyway, since obviously there's not really much to do up here. Might as well be under the death plane again, honestly, which is exactly where this next glitch is going to take us. This fog in the Cloud Kingdom, or at least the top layer of it, has a property that can cause a soft lock. If you jump into it, there's a certain point where the camera locks in position before you hit the death plane. Over on the east platform you'll find a note challenge if you ground pound it and ride it to the top. Collect every single note except for one at the very bottom of the stack, and if you collect the last note whilst timing a jump into the camera locking area of the fog, then the moon cutscene will play but the game will soft lock. This is yet another game resetter because the plus and minus buttons will not work in this situation. If you collect the last note a little too late after jumping, then the cutscene will play off screen, and when it's finished the game will carry on and Mario will die. There's one last glitch here in the Cloud Kingdom, if you can call it that shows you're not safe from the clouds in this level either. If you expand one whilst you're at the same height as it, then it'll high speed bonk you away. At least, it happened to Luke on X, but I couldn't get it to work. I honestly can't believe I've just showed you a difficult softlock and I can't even get a bonk to work. This game is incredible. You know, there's something else I can't believe too. This video is over 50 minutes long and we've still not even visited the first kingdom in the game for a few glitches, even though it's home to one of the most simple softlocks you can trigger in it. Make your way over to this Bonneter who's blocking a moon from you so that the A to talk prompt pops up, then move a little before jumping on the roof and talking to it. Doing this is enough to softlock the game and keep Mario moonwalking for an eternity. It might take you a few tries to get right, but once you get it, you'll see that not a single thing in the kingdom is moving except for you. The enemies, the glow from the moon rock, flags, you can't even pause to escape, so this is a reset too. If you capture a Paragoomba, you can fly straight through the corner of this wall. Seriously, you just fly towards it at an angle like this and whoop, right on through. Nintendo can't test every wall in the game for collision, I guess. I mean, what are they? A multi-billion-dollar company? There's not all that much to do out here as usual, and my god can it be difficult to see under here. But you can use this small patch of water to swim in the air under the kingdom if you haven't already pulled the plug. And it's really only helpful if you've missed these purple coins, as you can see and collect them from the wrong side of the wall. You'll find something just as useless if you flick this lamp on with Cappy, stand next to the hat that the Bonneter is standing on, then tilt the camera up so it's just you and the Bonneter on screen. With the right camera angle, a lizard will start to spout coins from behind him ready for you to collect when you turn around. It also works later in the game when the hat house with the Bonneter on top have left. Yeah, this is another one of those why glitches, but there's one more glitch that I want to show you in the Cap Kingdom, and it's the best one of them all here. It's called Hydrophobia, and you can do it if you can find a multi-coin block on the floor that hasn't been triggered yet, like this one in the Top Hat Tower. The absolute easiest way to get this one working is to hold crouch when entering the sub-area, then do a roll without touching anything on the control sticks until you come to a complete stop. From here, do a counterclockwise spin throw with motion controls, then hold X or Y until Cappy gets stuck on the block. Finally, release the throw button after the block has been hit a few times, and he should launch all the way over to the frogs in the distance and capture them with another flick of the motion controls. This is really impressive to me, and what's even more impressive is that speedrunners actually use this trick as a way of travelling faster across this section, though they obviously use a much more complicated method which I can't do. Over in Bowser's Kingdom you'll find Pokio enemies that you can use to scale walls by using their beaks to flick yourself upwards. If you flick onto some of the roofs with lower peaks, walk towards the top lip and keep attacking it whilst flicking the control stick back and forth, the Pokio will eventually flip upside down for some totally unknown reason. It'll stay like this for as long as you attack, but as soon as you stop it'll very slowly rotate until it's back on its feet. This slow rotation is the kicker for me. It's great that the game knows that this is wrong, but it's not in a rush to fix it. You can use a spin attack while the enemy is flipped over too, and it'll still work and can even cause the Pokio to stand sideways too. It's another nothing glitch, but I really like this one. I also like this too. Look at the stretch you can get on that beak if you hit the middle of this wall and then move it over to the peak of the roof. Absolutely not meant to happen, but I like it. Continuing with the nothing glitches, and probably the most nothing glitch of this entire video if you can believe that, is at the Crazy Cap Shop, here and only here in Bowser's Kingdom. You can glitch onto an invisible bench if you edge your way out of the door very slowly. It could take 5 minutes to do this, or it could take 40. The key is to press directly down on the control stick with no left or right input whatsoever. At least that's how I got it to work a few times in a row. Totally worth it to sit here on the air. But again, we're going back to these anti-gravity glitches again, and I feel like I'm playing Mario Galaxy more than Mario Odyssey right now. There must be something about invisible things in this kingdom, because there's a glitch that'll turn the Jizo statues that you can capture invisible in the sub-area where you have to solve a puzzle using them. By having Cappy wait by one of them in 2-player mode, jump on the spikes with Mario, and as he's flashing with invincibility frames, make Cappy catch it and then quickly catch the other ones before releasing. If you did it right and managed to land on top of an invisible Jizo, it'll stay invisible until you stop bouncing on it. In the very same sub-area you'll find that the hitbox of them can be a little off too, which means that they can clip through certain ledges if you hit the edge of them just right, like here on this ledge by the P-switch, here by the stairs in the main level, or even this step in the main courtyard. There's a part of the sub-area where you can trap one underneath the appearing wall by placing it there and using the P-switch, then fidgeting around to fall through the floor too, but they're all instant death locations here as usual. Also, if you fall off a ledge in assist mode fresh after releasing one of these guys, you'll end up inside it, until your invincibility frames run out and you pop out of it anyway. There's an absolute beast of an enemy here too called a Stairface Ogre, which is slightly more intimidating than the Jizo statues, especially considering that its only aim is to crush you into oblivion. If you lure it over to a wall and then jump between its giant stamp and the wall, when it lifts the stamp back up there's a chance that you'll get shoved through, and I'm not sure that this enemy is going to be happy about that since it hasn't destroyed you in the way it really intended to. The last and much more gentle glitch in this kingdom is a simple camera trick. When you plant the nut, enter into the beanstalk sub-area, and when you finish it or fail it, as soon as you land, enter into first person mode by pressing the right analog stick in and then move the camera a little. When you exit first person mode, the game will target a completely different place below where Mario is standing until you move the camera again. The camera is just far enough away from you that the ash on screen is in slow motion, which is the same effect that you can see clearly with the people in New Donk when you're far away. Man, am I glad that we're getting out of this place, because what you're looking at here is the very last useless glitch that we're going to see in today's episode, and it's pretty cool. This rock will gain a mysterious floating property if you place it on these dropping platforms, cause the platform to drop, and then pick it up in the air the moment the platform crumbles. Everything looks normal until you try and throw it, at which point it'll float in the air indefinitely. Not even kicking it will make it fall, it's as useless as a rock that's floating in the air. You can however pick it back up whilst it's floating and place it somewhere else if you want to experiment with annoying any of the NPCs that are around here. And trust me, a lot of these NPCs really do not like to be messed around with this rock. Just listen to these NPCs and what it does to them. Like I said, I think this is a pretty cool glitch, and the strange thing about this one is that only the sparkling or glowing rocks have this property when you trigger it. It does nothing at all to the boring, normal old rocks. No idea why, but it's a thing, just try it. Moving away from the fun that is rocks and back onto nuts. Yep, we're not done with nuts either. We've seen them in a fair few glitches today, from stretching them, to sliding with them, and even gliding with them. But the one you really want to see is infinite jumping using them. For some reason, this only works if the nut has been completely submerged in water, and that's not a lie either. You can try this without the nut being wet and it will not work. That's why in the scene it's called the Wet Nut Glitch, and what a beautiful name it is. All you've got to do once you've wet the nut is head back to dry land, throw it, dive towards it, and repeat. Once you get the pattern nailed, you'll be able to get pretty much anywhere that you like. Unless you're me and you can't quite make it over to this painting moon that I didn't collect through my entire playthrough of the game. It's a pretty tricky glitch to get the timing right with, so this is as close as I got. Of course, this only works in a kingdom where you can find a nut and water, but it's well worth practicing if you have a little time to waste. To finish off today's episode, let's take a look at one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's called a roll cancel clip, and it could get you out of bounds in a ton of places, but Nintendo tried to patch it out in 1.2, so it's a lot more difficult to do in that version onwards. To do it, you'll first have to master a trick called roll cancelling, and that's just made up of a few really, and I mean really quick button presses. You'll need to ground pound and keep hold of the button, then as the dust is up in the air, roll with one of the cap throw buttons, then as soon as physically possible after your roll starts, throw cappy and jump at the exact same time. The way I personally found it easiest is to ground pound, then roll my thumb from X to Y and B. If you get it right, then Mario should cancel the roll and throw cappy. You can easily check if you're doing this right by trying it up against a wall. If Mario bonks the wall, you did the button combo too slow. If Mario jumps, you didn't press throw and jump at the same time. And if cappy gets thrown, then you pressed roll too early after landing. It's pretty difficult, believe me, but once you've mastered it, you can pop Mario right next to a wall, do a roll cancel, and if you're in a good place, you can clip straight through it. This could be really helpful for entering into areas that you've not unlocked yet, like behind the Sphinx or into the inverted pyramid before it floats up later in the level. We can totally ignore Cappy's statement here because he has no idea what he's talking about, clearly. In other places you try this, it's not so helpful as you'll probably fall to your death, and if you're really struggling to get it working, you can always just do a normal roll against this wall in the Metro Kingdom to clip through. Or this one. They are definitely much easier ways to roll clip. And with that, we've finally reached the end of today's huge episode of Glitch Picnic. I don't think there's been an episode this long in the history of this channel. I hope it's been worth the year-long wait, and I can only apologise for just how long it's been. We've started a new business with a couple of friends called Level Up Gaming Events, and we've been hosting some things locally for a while, which it takes a huge amount of time and effort, so yeah, sorry again for that. Anyway, I owe a huge shout out to the Patreon supporters who have stuck around for so long, ready and waiting for this upload, and they are Max Wegner, Talentless Hack, Himdog, Michael Harris, Sailor, and the girl without a name. Wonder who that is. Thanks so much for your support, and I promise that you won't have to wait as long for the next video. I've got some good ideas, so look forward to it. And don't forget, I love you all. Mwah!